Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. And today we're going to talk about the fact that the FDIC has just sued Lennar for basically mortgage fraud. And you guys, this story was absolutely buried in the abyss of the internet. Now, the FDIC did file a lawsuit against Lennar on August 14th. Unfortunately, there was very little information about this lawsuit, so I had to subscribe to various websites to get more information. Now, you may be wondering, why is it so important to talk about the FDIC suing Lennar for basically mortgage fraud? Now, the reason that's so important is because Lennar is almost the #1 new home builder in America. And I believe what I'm about to talk to you guys about is another red flag on why, as consumers, we have to be incredibly careful who we decide to do business with, especially in real estate. There are so much financial bias and corporate greed in the real estate market. So we'll go over all of that stuff today, guys. Really, really crazy. I will have this article linked in my description. I also was able to find the PDF filing. It's like 40 pages. It's a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But the reality is, guys, is the FDIC is going after Lennar for basically committing mortgage fraud. You guys could probably tell that I'm at the beach. The last couple of weeks I've either been sick or watching my children, so I wanted to take a break, really clear my head, and make some videos to report to you guys on what's going on in the housing market exactly. So I'm gonna dig into the article right now, you guys. I'll throw up an overlay on the screen and we'll get this started right now. FDIC sues Lennar Mortgage over bad home loan bundling. Deposit Insurance Corp has hit Lennar Mortgage with a lawsuit over losses from 27 allegedly defective loans that were sold as part of a residential mortgage-backed security package before the financial crash of 2008, saying the mortgage company has a contractual obligation to compensate for the deficient lending. And once this article points out exactly how Lennar Mortgage really doomed these home buyers, you guys are gonna freak out. And again, you guys, this is just another red flag. It's another story that should tell you guys that no one's gonna care about the investment of your lifetime buying a house. No one's gonna care about that as much as you guys care about that. So just remember that. In a complaint filed Friday, the FDIC, acting as receiver for the now defunct Washington Mutual, and you guys, WAMU, our Washington Mutual, is the #1 bank failure in history. And don't forget, you guys, I was personally a part of the entire great financial collapse. I became a loan officer on Realtor in 2003, but I started in real estate in 2002. So I went through all of that. And to put this in perspective, Washington Mutual is like the Bank of America or Chase of today. So the fact that they went down in 2008 was a huge, huge deal. WAMU said Lennar Mortgage must honor its obligation to indemnify for losses from loans made by 2 of its predecessor mortgage brands. So Lennar Mortgage used to be called Eagle Home Mortgage and/or Universal American Mortgage of California. Very interesting. FDIC said an agreement made between WAMU and Eagle Home Mortgage in May, and another between WAMU and Universal American Home in September of that year, hold Lennar Mortgage liable for indemnifying the losses that in any way arise out of or relate to alleged act or omission. The FDIC said in a complaint that 27 Lennar loans sold to RMBS Trust contain numerous deficiencies, inaccuracies, and material misrepresentations. Few examples of those loans included one in which the borrower's monthly earnings were misrepresented by more than 6 times their actual salary, and another in which the mortgage documents misrepresented that the home would be a primary residence when it wasn't. Let me talk about that real quick. That happened all the time back in 2002 to 2008. That was called stated income. Basically, someone could just state their income and not have to prove it. And that is one of the fundamental differences in the loans we have right now compared to back then. Income verification and income restrictions makes today's lending much more different. Now, I'm not talking about unaffordability. Things are more unaffordable now. Prices are way higher. PE ratios are are out of whack. Things are falling apart. I'm just specifically saying, as a result of the crash and Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, thank goodness there are no more stated loans. But imagine that, guys. So many people in America were just making up how much money they actually made. I'll finish out this article and go into a couple other things. Lennar Mortgage merged subsidiaries Eagle Home Mortgage and Universal American under its name in 2019, according to this complaint. WAMU closed on September 25th, 2008, at which point the FDIC became receiver, the complaint said. Now, the FDIC said in the complaint that it sent demand letters in 2021 and in 2022 to Lennar Mortgage seeking more information from the losses. What this really sounds like is mortgage fraud. Fast forward to today, Lennar is still getting popped for mortgage fraud back in the day. This is all my opinion. I don't want to get into trouble, but we can tell that Lennar had their own best interest in mind. When you use 6 times the income for someone to qualify for a home, you should know, really anyone should know, that person cannot afford that house. And the really crazy thing is, guys, is again, how buried this story is. Literally, when you're done watching this, go to Google and type in FDIC sues Lennar. So if you're a consumer, what do you do with this information? Well, I want to go over a few things that I believe it's and again, in my opinion, of course, I know that's why you're watching, but I want to go over a few things that I think that this should really kind of wake us up to what's going on right now. Now, the first thing, guys, again, remember, Lennar is basically almost the #1 new home builder in America. Let me throw up their stock real quick. Here's what their stock is sitting at least from when I started recording this. Now it's down about 10% since Warren Buffett bought D.R. Horton. Go figure that. And the other important thing here is, remember what I've been telling you guys, essentially that new home builders have etched out a section of the housing market that's all theirs. They're offering really crazy price breaks right now, and they're offering like really, really crazy interest rates. And as you can see here, Lennar is actually offering a 4.25%. And not only that, they're doing price cuts all over the nation, including Florida. You guys can see this was cut down to $379,000 from $436. So Florida's making progress as well. You can see there's another one right here in North Carolina, reduced to $825,000 to $875,000. That's a $50,000 reduction. And you guys know I'm not going to leave out Austin. Now, this property that's under construction is cut down to $716,000 from $925,000. That represents a $200,000 price cut, guys. The reason I'm telling you that is, what if all of that is too good to be true? Now, the first thing I want to talk about, guys, is the fact that when we do take advantage of these crazy buying incentives, we put ourselves at risk as consumers, basically because of the way the laws are. And I'm not talking about zoning. By all means, make different zoning laws so we can build more houses. I'm talking about steering laws and RESPA laws. As a result of the laws, new home builders get away with things that loan officers and realtors can't do, specifically steering. As a realtor and loan officer, I can't tell you to use a company to get a deal. However, new home builders can say that. They can tell you, if you want a 4.25%, you must use Lennar Mortgage. Now, what's wrong with that? The biggest thing wrong with that is you give the builder almost total control of the transaction. And when someone has that much control of the transaction, it's really easier for them to manipulate the transaction, put hidden fees, and just other things like that. Always remember, if you are taking advantage of these really, really crazy buying incentives, you're putting yourself at risk and basically dealing potentially with a company that doesn't care about you. And that's really not what you want to do. So always, always, you guys remember, have representation when you go to look at new home builds. And if you're a realtor watching this, make sure if you're representing someone, you definitely fight for everything. Make sure everything's in the contract. I have had so many situations where a rep from a new home builder has promised something to my client or to a realtor, but didn't put it in writing. And we get to the closing, and then every single time, you guys, they always renege on what they were saying and basically say, if it wasn't in writing, we can't help you. And they know they can get away with this because generally buyers just want to close and they don't want to go through any more drama. And real quick, guys, I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm actually on top of my truck. You guys can see right there. I'm actually shark fishing. It's all conservation, catch and release. You guys may be able to see Jullian out there. I'm not sure if you guys can see Jullian out there. Jullian's a good friend of mine. He's been following me along for the last year and a half on this channel. He's my cameraman, drone man. He's also a realtor. I have Jullian's information linked in my description if you guys want to know information in Texas. I have so many people reach out to me about representing them in Texas. You guys know that even though I'm a realtor, I am not representing people. If you need your market analysis or you need correspondence, please reach out to Jullian. He's here to help. I can't do it yet. I will eventually get into real estate, and I'll actually be really excited about it. Another thing I want to talk about that's really important is what I believe is a big reason why we don't hear that much information on the news about new home builders, which is basically the arbitration agreement they have in their special warranty deed. Here's Jullian. How you doing, brother?
Hey, good. Hope you guys are learning.
Appreciate you always, man. He's gonna hold it down. I'm gonna kind of walk over here. We have right now, you guys, about 8 lines out. I actually caught almost a 6-foot alligator gar here in the ocean the other day, so really cool. But anyways, guys, here's what's so important to understand. If you have any deficiencies or you have any agreements, you need to make sure that the deficiencies are repaired and the agreements are completed before closing. Once you close on a new home build, generally you can't sue the new home builder. We interviewed a Lennar homeowner on this channel, Mariah and her husband. They were basically taken for a loop. They didn't have representation from a realtor. They didn't do a new home inspection. And I asked them, you know, do you plan on suing Lennar? And they said that really attorneys don't want to touch cases like this because one of the first things they have to do is get around the arbitration agreement. So the thing is, guys, is yes, new home building has crazy buying incentives, but when we look at the reviews, when we look at quality of materials, I think that there's a lot of reason for us to be worried and concerned about the process of purchasing a new home. So just don't forget that, and I'm gonna tell you guys one more time, okay? If you are trying to purchase a home and it's a new home, make sure you don't sign anything unless you have representation. Do not sign a thing. Do not even sign in as a potential buyer. You always want representation, you guys. It is never more important to have representation, especially when it comes to new home building, because they have way too much control over the transaction. But not only do they have so much control of the transaction, the laws that are in place right now that are set to protect the consumers are outdated. The government, someone needs to make more laws that pertain to new home builders to protect the consumers. If you guys search Lennar, Pulte, KB, DR Horton, look at what consumers are going through right now, you guys. It is an absolute tragedy. Now, other than that, guys, I hope that this video gave you guys more perspective. I hope you guys can trust me a lot more with what I'm saying. I don't want you to learn the hard way. I don't want you to buy an overpriced house, and I don't want you to trust someone that only wants to make money off of you buying a house. Now, other than that, guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, you know I wish you luck, and I hope you win.